It's been 24 hours since the National Hockey League ended their trade deadline. Or did they?
What does that mean?
If Jenny Dadonov was traded, what we think was prior to the trade deadline at 3 p.m. Eastern yesterday, to Anaheim. In return, Vegas took on Ryan Kessler and John Moore. Kessler, of course, is retired, but they get to eat the rest of his remaining contract that they can easily push off to the side, therefore alleviating Vegas of $5 million on Dadonov. But now the NHL is reviewing that contract on whether or not Dadonov had Anaheim on a no-trade list.
Hmm.
And now everybody's playing stupid.
I guess. Maybe everyone was stupid. What happened here, Kipper?
What happened was Dadonov had a 10-team no-trade list.
Okay.
And Anaheim was on the list.
And that was with Ottawa.
And he got the list in. Everything's great. And Anaheim and Vegas still got together and pushed a trade through with Anaheim on that list. Now, you tell me how the NHL can do anything except void this trade.
Well, so it sounds like he had the no trade officially. They properly filed that paperwork, him and his agent. Ottawa knew about it and maybe didn't send the contract over to Vegas. Like Vegas didn't know about the no trade list and that it was still valid. So when Vegas traded him, they were doing the right thing. They thought they were operating on the up and up. And this is maybe not on Vegas, partially on Ottawa. But you're right. How do you send a player there who had the team on his, which by the way would bone Vegas?
You're starting to hear reports that they need to talk to Ottawa. They need to investigate Ottawa. This is
in my mind. Ottawa staff's like 3 people, and most are interns.
Regardless if they have 3 or 300, this is not on Ottawa. No.
Okay.
You sell a house.
Yeah.
And the owner wants to come back 6 months later and say, hey, the roof leaks. What are you going to say to him?
Beat it.
Scram.
Right.
And that's what the Ottawa Senators right now should be telling the NHL, Anaheim, and Vegas. Scram. We traded him in the contract, in a standard player's contract.
Mm-hmm.
It is crystal clear. No move, no trade, modified no trade.
What's he got? We need to know.
Okay, it's there.
Right.
So when you traded the player, it is upon you to see that in the deal.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is it only says no move, no trade, or modified, and it doesn't come with the list. The list stays within the clubs. So if Ottawa didn't offer it, if Vegas didn't ask for it, who's it on?
The NHL then. In listening to you say all this, how is the NHL not saying, okay, you got a contract you guys filed with a 10-team no trade list. You got it says he has to submit to you by July 1st. We're going to need that paperwork whenever that's submitted. Should there not be league-wide oversight of no movement and no trades?
I think there's somebody in the office that probably needs to answer a few questions, but this is the way it works.
Somewhere's just eating a donut going, oh boy, is that me?
And this is Central Registry that's got their shorts in a knot right now because everybody's embarrassed.
Yeah.
Except Ottawa. Ottawa's laughing right now.
They should be a little embarrassed, no?
No, Ottawa, nothing on Ottawa. Ottawa Senators, you are free and clear, in my opinion.
I'm still undecided.
No. They did nothing wrong. If you don't want to look for a list, if you didn't ask for it.
If I buy the house from Ottawa and they don't tell me that the water heater's about to explode, I'm going to be like, hey, was it not incumbent on you to get me the info on this?
No. There's as is. The house, was sold as is.
Yeah.
You didn't want an inspection. You didn't ask for it. It's on you. That's the way Ottawa's going to look at this.
In our metaphor, you're right.
Thanks. Now,
Yeah.
when you trade a player that has a list and teams are not included, the player has to sign off on that.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot trade a player unless he signs off on it.
Yeah.
But they traded him anyway,
Right.
right? So now
So they just didn't think he had one, though, or didn't think Anaheim was on it, or
I only have two choices. Vegas didn't know,
which is best case scenario in terms of hoping people are acting in the best interests,
or they knew
and they're scummy.
and they just tried to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Those are the only two choices.
God, Vegas hasn't exactly done right by their players, though. You know, like the amount of people they've brought in with bright promises that they've immediately shipped out in the next year or two. Yeah, it is interesting. And I feel for Dadonov through all this, who, you know, now his choices are go somewhere he expressly did not want to go, or stay somewhere he is expressly not wanted. You know, like he can't win now. You're going to stay with a team that didn't want you to be there. And I imagine, Kyper, and I'm making assumptions here, but I imagine this came down to taxes. If you're making an exempt list, like California is the highest taxes in the U.S.
12.3%.
And Nevada's a zero.
Zero.
So $5 million,
No.
we're talking about $500,000 or
No.
What?
6.5.
6.5.
6.5.
That's the swing for him, or sorry, that's
his salary next year, cash.
yeah. So you're taking 10%, so $620,000.
12.3.
$650, sorry.
Right?
So, yeah.
So
There you go.
his cap hits $5 million, but the cash that he's owned 6.5.
Yeah.
And you want to know why people have no trade lists and put California?
Yeah.
That's the top of the list. He's not going. He doesn't want to go over there and hand him over $600,000.
No, absolutely not. Trade me somewhere in Florida. Trade me to Texas. I don't care. Just don't trade me to Anaheim
So
or Canada.
this this contract, this trade has to be void, null and void.
And so now Vegas, how are they going to operate if that's null and void and this is on their books? How are they going to dress a hockey team?
I'll give you one more before we even get to that. Okay. I talked to two different clubs and they are infuriated right now that they don't know last night Anaheim played Vegas played Minnesota and lost. But last night, who had property of Dadonov?
I don't know. No idea.
Well, Vegas
So if
under
it's Vegas,
cap
yeah.
compliance last night.
Right. Yeah, if Dadonov's a part of their healthy roster, maybe they weren't.
Did they play illegally last night, Vegas? Were they over the cap? Where's Dadonov right now? Is he a member of Vegas or is he a member of Anaheim? Where's his cap hit last night?
He exists.
Every dollar counts for every team right now.
Yeah.
There are teams, the difference between making the playoffs, not making the playoffs, seeding, home dates.
Vegas on a back-to-back. They're in Winnipeg tonight. So what's their salary cap situation for tonight? What kind of hockey team can they dress tonight?
That's right.
League better figure it out. If I'm the Jets, I'm going, Eichel can't play. They can't fit him under the cap.
You got to think moving Dadonov was to find a way to get Mark Stone back in the lineup or Martinez.
Yeah, Martinez that's almost direct comparable cap hit wise, and I think he's pretty close to healthy.
Oilers, pretty good game against Colorado, but only get the 1 point, not the 2. Think they're watching carefully?
On Vegas.
On Vegas?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, Winnipeg might be like, I don't know, we don't care who plays with the Oilers. Be like, we do.
Yes.
We care who they dress.
What would a kind of a punishment be for that?
Who are we punishing?
If the Vegas Golden Knights played a game last night when they weren't cap compliant, what kind of is it? Draft
I don't
pick
know.
Is it draft pick?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's weird.
It is a funny thing that it's like
Has it
you
ever
have to be
happened?
under this salary cap. But what if we're not? And it's like, we'll worry about that later.
That's a great question. I don't know. Is it a fine, a slap in the wrist, a draft pick? Again,
It can't be money or teams would do it. If it
I
was
just-
money, teams would be like, well, we'll just go over then.
so what happens because the Central Registry does not have the list, you just trust the teams, or the team, in this case, Vegas, when they were trading him from Ottawa, to say, we're not on his no trade list, so he's free and clear to come to us.
So my first thought is that's a bad system.
But how did it go from Vegas to Anaheim?
And isn't there something about like no move clauses don't always travel with the contract? Like there's some complications here.
There's different language for different clauses.
You know what we should do? We should get someone on who's dealt with this for an NHL team
And
today.
we do.
Oh, good.
Chris Gear will join us, sports executive, lawyer, analyst. 3 things we're not.
Well, analyst, I hope.
I like to play one on the radio.
Yeah.
Contributor to Daily Face Off. Lawyer, analyst. I know I'm an analyst. I know you're an analyst.
Okay.
And I know Sammy thinks he's one. So he's going to come and join us and clear all of this up. But I assume that's what happened when Dadonov moved to Anaheim, that Vegas was asked, is Anaheim on his no trade list?
He's like, they're like, his no what
They're
list?
like, what? We don't know nothing about that. And the deal went through.
Yeah. Until it didn't.
Until it didn't. So
It's funny that the only reason we ever found out about this is I'm sure Dadonov was like, I'm sorry, what?
yes,
Correct.
Like, where was I down?
And he-
100%.
so
I
he
want-
walks back into the rink tomorrow being like, hey, guys.
I wonder if he could say, I'll go, but Vegas is going to pay me the $650 I'm going to pay extra in taxes. I mean, probably not.
Probably not.
The league would not like that.
Not a chance.
No.
Now, Vegas can still trade him.
What?
Yeah. They can still trade him.
That's right. You just can't play in playoffs for whoever he trades him to.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know how many fans really know that still. It's not really a trade deadline day. It's a
Trade deadline if you want to use the guy.
It's a trade deadline for eligible playoff players.
Right.
But you can't put that in a promo, like, right? Like Sportsnet can't put that in a promo.
Yeah.
It's just too many words for them.
Yeah.
And they like their promos really simple.
Yes.
Right, Sammy?
Yes, sir.
Right? They like them really simple. So you can trade him, but you're going to have to find someone that's not on his trade list and someone that can make the money work.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another option that no one's talking about is you can still send him to Anaheim.
You could still send him to Anaheim
Yes.
if
he
he's
do-
willing to go.
No. If he's not willing to go, you can still send him.
Tell me more.
Waivers.
Waive him, have Anaheim claim him.
Correct.
So he has a no trade, not a no move. So,
Did I
Yeah.
just,
yeah.
right?
So I wonder if that affects Vegas because now they can't go as far into LTIR, right? Because they were going to get Kessler's contract back. I don't know.
They could waive Kessler's contract.
I don't know how any of this works. I'm very
But
confused.
I don't know. That's
Yeah, yeah.
that's me off the top of my
Yeah.
head, and I'm not even sure if it would work.
Right.
I'm just
Yeah, but there is options
Spitballing.
here still.
there are options. Yeah.
Oh, so Vegas is going to figure it out. They're going to unload him one way or the other. It may cost them a pick or something if they have to.
So I wonder, is that the delay right now? Because I really believe that the NHL probably should have stepped up right now and said, void.
Mhm.
The contract is
Yeah.
not
he
eligible,
has a no trade.
ineligible
Yeah.
trade.
Yeah.
So figure it out real quick here, boys.
Well, they have to today. You can't play another hockey game not knowing if Dadonov is a part of that salary cap or not. So, okay.
We do know Mark Giordano. His deal with the Leafs in Seattle went through.
That's a plus.
Did you guys hear any different?
I think that one was approved by the league.
That
Okay.
that would be big news.
And we had talked, where would he slot? Where would he be? I think that question was answered today by Sheldon Keefe.
Yeah, when we looked at it, we thought keeping things lefty, righty was, made a lot of sense to us. And then at the same time, it maintains pairs that have been together with Brody and Hall and Riley and Lyubushkin. So we just thought it made some sense that way. I think, when Muzz returns, we'll probably get a different look at that time. But for right now, I think this makes a lot of sense for us to just do it this way.
You okay with that? I am.
I am too.
So that was him on playing with
Liljegren. Yeah.
On the when they're listing out the pairings, that was the bottom pair.
Yeah. So you're looking at Riley, Lyubushkin, Brody Hall, Giordano, Liljegren, because you traded Dermott and Muzzin's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, there's no other option, if I'm not mistaken, for Giordano outside of shuffling it up and say, I don't even know, unless you go Liljegren back with Riley or something. It's kind of what you had to do.
It looks like a third pairing, which it sets up that way, which is great. And you feel the game out. And when you need to go to Gio, you go to him.
Mm-hmm.
You work the other way around instead of just filling his plate up right away.
Yeah.
Just bring him along slowly here.
It's worked so much better for the Leafs when they bring guys in and say, okay, Lyubushkin, you're going to play third pair until we think you're ready for a little bit more. We'll get your feet wet. Nick Ritchie handed a bit too much right out of the gates. Joe Thornton came here. They put him with the top line right out of the gates. I like the idea of going the Lyubushkin route and saying, you're going to start in the third pair with Liljegren. We'll work you up to speed. He was quarterbacking the second power play unit for the Leafs today. Giordano was. So working him into obviously with Sandin out, that spot's open. So I agree, Kipper, good start for him there, and Liljegren
and
should
the
be
trade
just
really
fine.
couldn't have happened at a better time. Sandin, my understanding is, will get further evaluated, and
Is there playoff concerns? Do you think for Sandin?
I think it's open right now.
Yeah, we don't know.
I think in a perfect world, at least they would have thought that they were going to get him back just before the season ended. That's what I had heard originally. I don't know if anything's changed. I don't know if doctors found a tear, a partial tear, a sprain, something's going on with his knee.
God, I imagine, would they still trade Dermott if they find out?
See,
would have known this.
That's an interesting point, and I would have thought that you need depth on that.
Because the
blue
Dermott
line.
trade seems like a favor trade, does it not? He wasn't happy here. He wanted more opportunity. They like getting a third round pick, but it didn't feel like we don't want this guy. We'd rather have a third round pick. It felt like he's not happy here. We can get a fine return. I'm sure they could have used him rather than a third, given where they're at right now, fellas. Anyway.
And that's where Gio can come in on the second power play and really absorb what was shaping up for Sandin this time around as a legitimate top four guy going into your first round of the playoffs.
Yeah. I imagine when Muzzin's back, well, he mentioned Muzzin will give him a different look when he's back. And the pairs will look a little different once they have both Sandin and Muzzin. I don't imagine Lily's in at that point.
Yeah. I'm just apprehensive with how long Muzzin will be part of the equation. It's just the two concussions in 1 year, the second one a pretty vicious one. I think you have to proceed I know they've been cautious with him, and there was talk of him not playing into the playoffs, but I think that's one with other stuff that's happened with him missing time in the playoffs. Like that's got to be a huge concern, them just banking on him. No?
Well, yeah.
They have no choice.
Yeah, that's kind of it. It's like I agree that you have to plan like you're going to have him and then react when you don't. I don't know that there's any other way to go about that.
And he's doing all the right things. He's acting like a guy that wants to play in another 2 weeks.
Yeah. Right now it's March 22nd. I don't imagine we're very far into April when we see him again. Coming up on a month till the end of the season here. It's April 29th is the last game. So exciting times to have Peter Marazzic as a potential goaltender for your hockey team.
Yeah, but what's the potential Wednesday night?
Yeah, I don't know. So that, Sheldon did talk about that on his goaltending situation.
Didn't name his goaltender today.
No, he didn't. So what are your thoughts on Wednesday? Who should start against the Devils on Wednesday night for you guys?
Shalgren.
Out of your mind.
Okay.
Marazzic.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Yes.
No.
How can you put?
Kyper, if you can't start him against the Devils on a Wednesday night, when the hell are you ever going to start him again? You're just not going to ever again?
Okay, let's just back up for a second, okay? I'll answer your question. I just got to look at the schedule. And if I'm not mistaken, there is a back-to-back.
Back-to-back? What is your
Is
plan?
there not a back-to-back?
What is your plan for Peter Marazzic? If
This
you're
weekend in Montreal, home Panthers.
There you go.
You're going to hand him the Florida Panthers with your team on a back-to-back.
No, I'm going to hand him Montreal on the road. I don't want Marazzic, Peter Marazzic, at home giving up the first goal and people all over him. All over him. 20,000 people all over him.
He's got to figure it out.
No, he can figure it out on the road.
He can
in Montreal.
That's actually it's true.
No,
and I bet you that's what they're debating.
I'm not starting him at home.
There's only 20
coming off a trade
hockey
deadline
games left. There's
I'm not
20 games
starting
less.
Peter Marazzic at home coming off a trade deadline when everybody's killing me because I didn't go get Marc-Andre Fleury.
I can't worry about his feelings. I need him to get playing again and play a softer team.
Saturday. You're 3 days.
What's the point of playing Shelgren another? It doesn't sound like from Kyle Dubas's conversations yesterday that they intend to play Shelgren in the playoffs. Sounds like they want Marazzic back, don't they?
He's going to play on the weekend. Of course he's back.
I don't actually hate your idea. I just liked arguing about it.
Yeah.
So let's listen to what the team thinks. What's that?
I just, if there's no way, I agree that the home start thing is definitely a factor, and I guarantee that's something they're talking about putting him in front of the fans, one goes in or whatever. But if
you guys buying what I'm selling?
I'm buying it a bit, but if a guy who makes $4 million a year can't go in there behind the Leafs revamped decor against the Devils and make enough saves for them to win the hockey game, then what are we doing here?
Yeah, okay. So that's my whole point. So Thursday morning, you've come to the conclusion that the Leafs have lost 4-1, and he let those two early in, and now you got to spend the rest of the season going, what are we doing here? He stinks.
I just think you keep ramming your head against the cement wall until he figures it out.
No,
I do.
You have to help him get there, and sticking him back into a home game, coming off a trade deadline when you made no changes in net. Don't throw him to the Wolves or the Lions or whatever you want to say.
I gotta say, I like when your adamant points are well argued. It's a good one. Let's listen to what Sheldon Keefe has to say about Peter Marazzic.
I think he's handled it well. I met with him today just to, see where he was at and also give him my thoughts of where I think he's at and what it is we need from him going forward here. So I think he's handling it well. I think, if anything, my message to him is that it should be a full reset here now. It's a bit of a shock to a player, an established NHL player that goes on waivers. That in itself is a shock, and then when you clear waivers, it should be even more of a shock that you haven't been nearly good enough. So it's an opportunity for him to really get to work.
Get to work. Get to work means you're not starting Wednesday.
Work with the goalie coach, figure yourself out a little bit. I don't know. The fact that he met with him kind of makes me think that, it's when you meet with a guy one-on-one, you're trying to get him back on track. I think that meeting usually goes with like, okay, we're going to get you back in. We need you back at it.
Yeah.
And not, hey, just beat it.
Yeah.
Just beat it for a bit.
And if I'm Peter with Sheldon, I look right back at him and go, what other choice do you have, pal?
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, I know I'm getting back
in. I'm eating $100 bills during the meeting. I'm sorry, what are you saying? So rich.
Right? Like,
yeah, no.
Where else are you going to go?
Yeah, you didn't get anyone, buddy. Sorry about Harry to Terry.
Keith also had a good clip if we want to listen to on who's going to start. He was asked on who's going to start, and he gave a pretty thoughtful answer if we want to hear that.
I do want to hear it.
From who, sorry?
From Keith.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, we haven't decided on that yet. And that was part of my message to Peter is that I was going to meet with him today. We're going to, let him get his work in practice, and then we're going to kind of revisit it and see where he's at. He has been through, quite a bit the last couple of days. You can imagine what that would be like for him emotionally. But I liked what I saw from him in practice today, and we'll look at it and revisit it, because at the same time we've got a guy in Sheldon that has done a good job for us and came in at a time when we needed saves and we needed a goalie to give our team confidence, and he's done that for us. So we can't overlook that, because we've come to really believe in his ability to play for us too.
Perfect answer.
Do you think he's genuinely undecided?
No. I think he's going Shalgren, and then he's going Marazzic, and then he'll...
Shelgren's getting the Florida
Marazzic.
Panthers?
Yeah.
First time in the year?
No, unless...
Listen, it's not
unless-
your fault the goalies aren't good. I'm just giving it to you because...
If Marazzic stands on his head against Montreal, I think there's a
You
chance
think about
that
it?
you can go back to back.
I mean,
That's where you are with your goaltending.
it's really tough to argue for anyone when no one has played well and Shelgren's got 3 NHL games experience.
So, Keith talking about, was it tough on Marazzic?
I
Was
know.
it? Was it tough on him?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was.
Yeah, let's listen to what
Get
Peter
to work.
Marazzic, his feelings on it.
Yeah, it never feels good, but now it's over. We move on, and it's like a reset button, and let's get going.
Sounds broken up.
The man is unfazed by life.
It is the right attitude
It
when you're a
is.
goaltender.
Well, that's exactly what he should say. It's what you would want him to say, but it's still like, how do you live like that?
But you
We have
got-
a bad show, and I'm like, I'm going to get fired tomorrow.
You've had a bad show?
Well,
Yeah,
in
just
theory,
move
if
on.
we did, a
Oh,
hypothetical.
you're talking about the TV side.
Yeah, I have bad ones there.
Nothing bad here. They're all great.
Except for the first week.
No one listened to those.
They have to have short memories and water off your back.
Yeah, no, it's you talk about the Ted Lasso thing and goldfish memory. This guy's the epitome of a goldfish. All right, reset button, let's go. It's great. I mean, it is very admirable, and I hope he's able to find it again. But yeah, they're in a tough spot because you don't trust Marazzic, but you got to find a way to get him going. I guess there's a world where Shelgren plays well enough where you go, okay, well, he's going to be our backup in playoffs, right? There's 20 games left. If he gets in 8 of them, plays really well, and Marazzic plays a few times and can't play, I mean, he's going to be in the backup in playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did we play Gio's debut clip?
We didn't, but he spoke pretty glowingly about it. So we can hear that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Gio.
Haven't been really nervous for practice in a long time, but I was anxious to get out there today, and happy to get that one under my belt before the game tomorrow.
When you look at the logo, what comes to mind for you, Mark?
Oh, I mean, I grew up here, right? So it's been a team I've obviously followed my whole life. There's a lot of history, obviously, with this organization, but it's pretty special to be able to say that you're from here and you played for the organization.
How about coming home and being around family and that sort of thing, and having them close by?
Yeah, as you get older, with children, it changes a lot in life, and you really cherish those moments, especially my, getting to see the grandparents. It means a lot to the kids, and obviously to my parents and my wife's parents. So it's cool. It's cool, and I want to take advantage of this. This is a great opportunity for myself.
Just once, I'd like to hear a guy say, when he's asked about the logo,
I don't know.
yeah, they haven't won since '67.
Yeah.
Suffered the worst loss in playoff history last year.
I wish we'd wear a black jersey.
Kipper.
Media runs you out of town.
Read the room, Kipper. No, you're right, though. It is funny. There may be the next generation of potential Leafs players may talk more like that. What does it mean for you to play for this team? Like, I don't know. They're in the NHL. This is pretty cool. But
Hopefully that changes for Sammy and Leaf Nation.
for sure. Gio,
boy.
he actually did. He talked extensively about the Leafs and their history, and someone asked him about what he remembers most, and he was like, "Well, 1993 in Game 6 when he was dialed into this stuff." So you've had it before. Nick Foligno came and said all the cool things too. So I think everyone tries not to get too excited, but it is cool to have someone who's loved the Leafs from the beginning.
I lived it. I put that uniform on every time when I pulled it over. I'm like,
Did you have moments?
oh, my first moment pulling over the Leaf jersey.
Yeah.
My first game against the Dallas Stars, and I just had this 7-year-old feeling where I just
Yeah.
opened up the box, the Eaton's box or
Yeah.
Doug Laurie Sporting Goods box, and there's my Leaf jersey I'm putting on.
It's cool. I will say, that is one experience I did get to have. I didn't play NHL regular season games, but I got an exhibition game and got to pull on the Islanders logo, same as my dad. And I grew up as a kid with and to just, one time be like,
Yeah.
at least I made it here. Like I had a little tear in that moment, but
100%.
that's a cool experience. So good for Giordano.
And he's got over 1,000 games in the National Hockey League, and this one will feel so different.
Yeah, like out of body experience. I him saying being nervous for
He is.
practice. That's a weird, the media is there and it's just like.
So as a guy who's grown up and been a huge Leaf fan when he was a kid, like Gio was, and he's always wanted to play for the Leafs, he gets to make his Toronto Maple Leafs debut, something he's dreamt of his entire life, and they will be wearing black Leafs jerseys.
Yeah, I guess that's probably not a little anticlimactic for the guy.
Let me ask you about this is something that we didn't get to yesterday, and I wanted to get your guys' take on it in terms of Kyle Dubas bringing in veterans. And he's been doing the veteran thing a lot over the past couple of years. You look at Foligno, you look at Simmons, you look at Spezza, you look at Thornton. But he brought in Giordano, another one staying into the theme of never really winning much at all. In terms of, he's been past the first round once in his career. I think he's only played 23 playoff games, 1,000 regular season games. It's a pretty big discrepancy. Is there anything to that? Do you guys care about that?
I don't. It's such a fine line, Sammy, and I think all of them have shown over their careers they're character guys in each way.
Yeah, can I run counter to this point and just say Jay Bouwmeester? Jay Bouwmeester played a bajillion games in the NHL, maybe 1,000 before he played a playoff game.
Yeah.
And then suddenly gets traded to St. Louis, and all of a sudden you get in the postseason. It's like he's still hockey, but they win a Stanley Cup.
It can be overrated until it's not overrated.
What do you mean?
I'm just saying that Jay got over the hump.
Right.
And
just was in the right position.
Sometimes the stars have to align. Sometimes it's key injuries that haunt you. Sometimes it's a bounce. And then you say, well, that guy doesn't know how to win. He's never won before. And it's just one of those things. Right place, right time.
I'm not saying he doesn't know how to win. I'm just saying that it's another guy that he's brought in
and has never experienced. Never experienced finding out what it feels like to win your last game of the season. So,
did you win on the way to the Stanley Cup? Did you win in junior?
I won in the
minor
American Hockey League.
You did.
Yeah, I won the Calder Cup.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence necessarily that there are people who tend to be on winning teams.
It's hard to quantify.
It is, but I can tell you, experiencing it in the AHL and the Stanley Cup, it is a life altering. The way you feel and the way you feel about yourself
from the two leagues. Or just in general?
Winning.
Yeah, winning.
Just
winning.
Winning.
Yes.
Just standing there and knowing what it feels like, and to say that you've completed the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
You've graduated.
Right.
And it kind of oozes off of people. You walk into a room, you feel different, and people notice. Right?
Well,
there's that aura of winning.
Yeah. When I was with the Marlies in 2017 or something like that, we were down 2-1 or 3-1 to Albany. It's the American League, not a huge deal. But Ben Smith was on the team, and Ben Smith had won a Stanley Cup with Chicago like a year before or 2 years before. And I remember hearing everyone talk in the dressing room, and it's frenzied and whatever. And he was just like, it's different. He was just so calm and so relaxed. And part of it was maybe it didn't mean as much. I don't know. But he really changed the tone with the way he spoke to everyone. He brought it down, the perspective and context back to like just a normal level. Having had been there before made a difference for the guys in the room. They did end up winning.
And it helps. It does. You do lean on these guys.
I think of a guy the guy that we always bring up, but a guy that I think of is Corey Perry. Seems to go deep in the playoffs every year. And he plays on good teams, but he always seems to be in there. It's a hard thing. It's a tough balance where it's, how much is the team, how much is the guy, but it's no coincidence he's always going deep in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a thing.
And the guys just if you get a chance to go talk to some of those guys on Montreal last year and just talk about that calmness or that feeling of even just dressing beside him for practice or going for a coffee or a team meal with him and just absorbing all of that in, it plays a huge factor.
Yeah.
And I mean, I look at Jake Muzzin and pretty sure played a strong role, supporting cast role, of course, in LA with Doughty there and Martinez and, of course, all the big boys up front with Kopitar, Brown, all the rest of them. But he needed to come in and just ooze all of that for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think for the most part, he's tried his best.
Yeah, right.
But
If you're the only
still,
guy who's been there,
it's still, I don't think, enough right now for some of these kids. It would have been nice to have maybe 2 or 3 more of these guys to kind of lean up on. I know we've probably beaten this up to death, but Corey Perry was right there for them on a couple occasions.
I do feel like, sometimes you just need a bounce or a break or two for some of these guys, for them to get through one and feel like you just got to get in the games and be close. We've seen eventually Washington broke through and won their cup, and eventually St. Louis, be good for a long time. I think that's the plan, that one year they'll get the bounces, one year they'll have a sense for this thing. And
I always joke that talking about hockey, we talk about this all year long, and then it comes into the playoffs and you get a goal off somebody's ass in game 7 and you win.
Bad call
it's such a fluky game. Yeah. So, yeah.
And you make a great point. You're not a winner until you're a winner. And that's what everybody tries and strives to get over, including the Leafs from here on in this season.
So before we go to break, we had talked about doing some winners, losers, whatever from the trade deadline. I know everyone does that, and it's a cliche and annoying way to phrase it, but I'll go first and just say that I liked the Rangers, what they did, adding Kopp and Mott to their bottom 6. I thought, I think that those are a couple scrappy guys, and they struggled. Their whole team is Shesterkin, so I thought they made nice ads. Is there anyone that stood out to you?
Are we going to go to break, or are we doing this now?
I could do a couple minutes here. We got a couple minutes to do it.
All right. Okay, so are we going to kind of go off the obvious?
Sure.
The Floridas and Tampas.
Rangers with depth moves. Mott, did you mention that one?
Yeah, that's the one I like.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Middleton. And Fleury.
Yeah, and they got Delorier too from Anaheim or wherever he was last, LA somewhere.
And there was a few people trying to get Delorier.
Yeah.
As well. Pretty valuable guy.
It's interesting that Guerin clearly talked about that identity of being able to win in the alleys too, and they went all in on it. Like Middleton's huge. Delorier is obviously a big tough guy. They've got some guys who are already like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys saw it. We're going to have Mike Kelly on later in the show, right? That's today? Yes.
That's correct.
He shared a tweet earlier today that 4 teams in the NHL have received the worst goaltending, and he'll give us the metrics when he's on the show. But of the 4 teams, only Minnesota made a change. The Wild, Toronto being one of them, but the Wild made a huge upgrade. So already a pretty good team, upgraded a major weakness in goal. They get a little bigger and stronger.
And this is something we've talked about with them too. The cap doesn't look pretty next year. So it's a pretty important year this year, how well they've been playing and what happens to their cap next year. So I think they did a good job of sort of building up the bottom half of their lineup. Adding Fleury, really wish to. I do. I for the show, it would have been fun to have Fleury on the Leafs.
It would have been fun.
2 losers, and they may come into play for the Toronto Maple Leafs. You don't know how this thing's going to play out here when it comes to the seeding just yet. Carolina and Washington.
You didn't like them?
No, Carolina, first of all, they got Max Domi. Max is going to be someone that Rod Brindamore has to work on. We know how he's attention to detail, the defensive side. I think he's going to work with Max, but Max has got a lot of upside when it still comes to finishing, to
make
scoring.
The plays, right?
He's got some grit. We know he's tough. He doesn't back down.
Yep.
That'll be important for him. But outside of watching other teams that are legit contenders, Max Domi isn't enough for Carolina.
No. Just the teams around them got so much better. Yeah.
And I know there's a few pointing to the direction of their owner, Tom Dundon, and saying,
Didn't let him.
We needed more help. We
Yeah.
needed either more money or more prospects or more draft picks to move. And
How common is it for an owner to be involved at all?
Very common.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
At the
you gotta-
deadline, you say,
well,
hey, here's the thing we want to do.
It's more money, less money. What does it mean to you? What's it mean to your bottom? You can't do anything anymore without it affecting your owner's bottom line. So if you haven't gotten the green light by then, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Usually, I think the owners say, hey, do what you need to do.
Yeah.
There's a cap. I know what it is.
That to me is the cost of doing business in the NHL, even in terms of retaining salaries. So you can add prospects. Arizona's doing that now for crying out loud. Like, there is a cost to doing business. And if you can't afford the cost, maybe owning an NHL team is not.
And how surprised were you the Washington Capitals did not go get a goalie?
I guess medium surprised. Like Vanacek, I think, has been pretty decent for them, and they got some faith in him. I heard some comments from McClellan, who, he's been on our show a number of times, and maybe we should chat with him at some point, but it didn't sound like he felt like his team was playing well enough for the Giant move. I don't know, to really commit to him. And
yeah, I think it's no different than Kyle Dubas and Edmonton going, what's out there? And Fleury made it abundantly clear real early he's not going to Washington.
Yeah. Yeah, so at that point, Fleury's not willing to go. Who's it going to be? Yeah. Unless you overpay for someone who doesn't want to trade their goalie, I don't know what you do. So.
A sleeper for me, Leddy to St. Louis.
Good addition.
Nick Leddy.
Yeah, good skater, good puck mover. Something the Blues probably lack a little bit from the back end.
Yeah. I heard they were really close on Lindholm, too.
Oh, really?
Yes, but lost out to Boston.
The Leafs are going, come on. All right,
Sammy, we're going to take a quick break. You want to sell more peanuts on a train ride, or are we good?
No, the contest is done, but we have a winner. We have a winner.
We have a winner.
Robbie from Toronto. So, Robbie, congratulations. Molson Canadian Rivalry Train Contest. Thank you to everyone that participated in this amazing giveaway. And be sure to listen to Real Kyper and Bourne for more unbelievable giveaways such as this.
And that's this weekend.
Yeah, go
Montreal,
watch
baby.
See Peter Marazzic face the Montreal Canadiens.
I'm like, I slept in. I missed the train.
Oh, well.
All right, we'll go to break here. For those of you watching on YouTube, thanks for watching. Subscribe, hit the like button, rating and review on our podcast. All good here at Sportsnet 590 The Fan. We'll be back. Real Kyper and Bourne.
Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Derek Brandeo, and Sammy with you. We're just waiting on Chris Gear, former executive, now sports executive, lawyer analyst with Daily Face-Off. Chris, thanks for joining us.
You bet, guys. Glad to be here.
Hey, we started the show off pretty interesting storyline, not one that we get often coming off of the trade deadline here. Dadonov, is he an Anaheim Duck or is he a member of the Vegas Golden Knights? Let's start there, Chris, and get your thoughts.
Yeah, that's a pretty messy situation all around. I'm sure you guys have discussed it, but obviously when Ottawa signed him to that 3-year deal back in 2020, they gave him a 10-team no-trade list. He provided that list to them. It included the Anaheim Ducks. When Ottawa traded him to Vegas, that was obviously a permissible trade because Vegas wasn't on the list. But the league obviously would have seen the trade list as part of the trade call that approved that transaction. And then when Vegas turns to flip him to Anaheim at this deadline, they somehow didn't have the list or assumed that or had been told that the list no longer applied or something. We're not sure quite what happened there. Initially, there were rumors that Dadonov's agent had maybe not filed or submitted the no-trade list in time, but it looks now like they actually did, and there was some confusion on the trade call between Ottawa and Vegas as to whether that would apply going forward. So we'll see how that works out. The league and the PA are having discussions with the teams, but that's certainly one that you don't see very often.
Chris, when there are no trade clauses in players' contracts, say for 10 teams or whatever, do they always travel with the player? Are there instances where that voids a no trade clause? How does that work?
They do, and the league actually clarified that in the MOU that supplemented the CBA back when just before the bubble when they extended the CBA through that MOU, and they clarified that no trade and no move clauses always travel with the player. Mm-hmm. So, despite the fact that he was traded from Ottawa to Vegas, both the no trade clause and the specific list that he provided should have carried forward and applied to the trade between Vegas and Anaheim. Now, if there was a problem with the list or him not submitting it, so every contract will have a date by which that list is to be submitted to the team. And if somehow he missed that date or didn't submit it in time or had a right to change it and didn't, there are things that can be specified in the contract that would void the application of the no trade clause. But in this situation, it sounds like the players' camp did everything right, and there was a miscommunication between the teams, Vegas and Anaheim, or Vegas and Ottawa on the initial call. So, the thing that I find most curious is the league has very strict records when it comes to everything from, RFA status to games played and obviously all the stats, but they leave it to the teams to sort through the no trade stuff. Right. So it's interesting that when you have a no trade list, that it doesn't have to be filed with the league. So
that'll change.
I think that'll change going forward. Absolutely.
That'll change. So when we speak of no trades or no moves, they're not all standard. It's all in the language. Like some will have to revisit it every 12 months. Others, if they don't and leave it alone, it could disappear, or it could just be sent back to a list of 2 years ago.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's all about the language in the contract. A lot of times it'll be one list that applies for the duration of the term. Other times the player will have the right to change that list every year. And if they don't send in a new list, then it defaults to the original list. And if they do send in a new list, obviously they can change the teams that they put on it. If you're clever from a team side, you specify that if they don't submit a new list each year, then it just goes away. And I've seen a case where that actually happened, where a player had the rights, but we said that they had to submit a new list each year. And then in one of those particular years, the the player and the player's representatives didn't submit the list, and so his rights just fell away. We didn't actually, need to trade the player to a team that was on the list, so it ultimately didn't impact him, but it could have been a serious mistake by the representatives.
I imagine you didn't rush to remind them that the list was due on any given date.
No, absolutely. That's when you talk about internally and go, wow.
Yeah, like, boys, they still haven't submitted it. This is great. We were curious about this whole Vegas thing because right now, and Nick made the point earlier on the show that, like, we don't know who Dadonov's cap hit is with. So Vegas plays last night. They're scheduled to play tonight again. If you're like the Oilers and saying, hey, like they need to deal with their salary cap, like this guy is a part of their team, what do you think the league would do if it's found that Dadonov stays with the Vegas and they're over? Go ahead.
Or they weren't under compliance, cap compliance last night.
Yeah, is that the case? I thought maybe Dadonov's hit was only needed for them to activate some of their injured players. But if they actually played and needed his cap hit in their LTIR to have a compliant lineup last night, then yeah, I think there could be some penalties coming down from the league, unless the league determines that the league was partly responsible for the mess up, in which case they might not penalize them. But my original understanding was that they needed the Dadonov money going forward so that when players like Stone and Martinez are available, they can activate them. So, otherwise, if this trade doesn't go through, they won't be able to activate those players until the playoffs.
So, Chris, what I'm hearing now is that Central Registry on standard contracts, they have it's in there that says no trade, no move, modified, but the list is with the team. So when you go and make a trade, Central Registry would ask you, is Anaheim on his no trade list? And Vegas would have to answer that. And if it's no, he's not on, then Central Registry says, oh, go ahead then. But would they not need to see that list or sign off on that list? Or would the player not have to sign off on that himself?
Well, I think that's exactly the reason that the transaction hasn't gone through, is because Central Registry would have said, we need proof of that list, and Vegas probably couldn't provide it. Mm-hmm. And that's where it got tied up. So Central Registry does ask for proof of the list, or if let's say Anaheim was on the list, but Dadonov had written them a communication saying he waives the restriction on Anaheim, then obviously that could go through. But Central Registry does need something in writing that indicates that either the trade's permissible under the no trade list or that the player has waived that right.
Chris, how much of an advantage do you think it is for some teams in the NHL based on their cities being more desirable, based on state taxes, weather, things like that? Because I imagine, like, who are the most common teams on no move lists? I'm sure it's Canada, California. You can let us know about that. But do you think it's a considerable advantage for teams that don't show up on these lists?
Yes and no. I think a lot of times there's enough pressure that can be exerted on a player that even if a team is on their list at the beginning, they may reluctantly accept a trade to that city rather than being, made a bit of a scapegoat in the city for not wanting to move, or, there's lots of ways that pressure can be applied. I think I've seen various lists. There's lists that are geographically based. Some guys like the East Coast versus the West Coast. Some guys like warm weather cities versus cold weather cities. Teams that have not performed well in a long time, so you see a lot of Buffalo and Arizona and Ottawa on lists. But you see all kinds depending on what motivates the player.
We're speaking with Chris Gear, sports executive, lawyer, analyst, and contributor to Daily Faceoff. If this contract, Chris, gets null and void, what are the options now? We do know that it hasn't happened very often, but players can still be traded. They just cannot participate in Stanley Cup playoffs after the NHL trade deadline. The other way that I thought that maybe this deal could get through, and this is just me off the top of my head, is that they can bring him back, waive him, have Anaheim claim him in the waiver wire, and then send over Kessler on the waiver wire and have him claimed and saw off the contracts.
Yeah, I don't think Kessler can be waived actually because he's not an active player. So while injured, you're not. I don't think you can waive a player while he's injured. So I don't think that one would work. Can they make a trade after the fact and bring in somebody with LTIR money, so long as that player isn't playing on their roster at any point in regular season or playoffs? Yeah, they can do that. It's going to be complicated to find a partner out there that is willing to help them, first of all, and second of all, has the right contract to move there. So this is going to be a tricky situation. And I think, if it gets nullified, I think probably they have to move somebody off their roster.
So I'm sorry, you're saying Kessler is ineligible. He's no different than David Clarkson or Pronger or any of those guys that have been moved?
Well, they can be traded. I just don't think they can be waived in that situation.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Yeah. Then if you are, Vegas is screwed.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? Vegas has had such a tough year with all the injuries, but I know nobody feels sympathy for them, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, that's they're in a tough spot there, to say the least. So looking around the deadline and all these deals, I imagine someone in your position, like you were with Vancouver, would be going through a lot of, I guess, proposed deals or potential deals. What would this player look like? And with our salary cap, how much time is spent internally in organizations trying to figure out, trades that never come to fruition and just trying to make the math work on certain players and looking at contracts that you might desire out there?
Yeah, there's a lot of time spent on things that never ultimately materialize.
Mm-hmm.
You start working on potential deals at least a month before the deadline, right? You get a sense of what your team looks like by Christmas, let's say, and you start to think about, okay, what do we need? Where do we need to improve? Which guys aren't part of our future that we may want to move out? And you're talking to teams regularly all the way up to the deadline. And obviously that intensifies the last couple of weeks, but there's an awful lot of work that goes into proposals and things that never actually end up happening. And sometimes you can get really close and think you have it, and then maybe somebody steps in with one small piece that's better, and you lose the deal, and it all falls apart. So it's just some of it's good luck and timing. Teams like Calgary this year that decided to go early, and they went and got Toffoli and Yarncroke before really anybody else had started moving. I think that was smart on their part, because when you wait for the prices to fall, or when you wait for other teams to make a move first, sometimes you can miss out on your target.
Chris, internally in a Vegas boardroom or wherever those guys are, is there a few fingers being pointed at one another here? Would this fall under, I don't know, assistant general manager, the president? I don't know, like who's to blame for not knowing exactly what the heck was going on with the no trade list, and what you could get away with and what you can't get away with?
Right. Well, it's hard to point fingers right now until the league clarifies for everyone exactly what happened. But, I think as a team, it's no different than players on the ice. They have to wear it as a team. No one person is responsible for all of it. Usually you're sharing information, you're providing your colleagues with, updates on all the things that are happening. And, certainly something as significant as the list of teams where a player wouldn't go. I mean, that would have been known by everybody in that organization and their hockey ops group. So, who whether there's somebody that's more to blame or not, I'm not sure. That'll come out in the wash. But if they're a good group and a cohesive group, then they should all support each other and wear it equally.
Just one more. So I just want to make this straight. You don't believe for 1 second that Vegas didn't know?
I think they could have been misled, perhaps, or misunderstood.
By who? Ottawa?
Yeah, and I'm not blaming Ottawa either. Just, in the course of that trade call, Ottawa may have shown the list to the league, which obviously led to the approval, but maybe their impression was that somehow it didn't bind him going forward, or they didn't submit it on time. I'm not sure. I'd hate to be conclusive about this before the league actually tells us what happened. But I don't think that Vegas would have done this fully knowing that it applied, because it was bound to fail.
Yeah.
Right. So that they had to have been a misunderstanding or misled somehow for this to have happened.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating to watch that play out. Last one for me before we let you go. I wanted to get your thoughts on what the Vancouver Canucks did at the deadline, which was very little. Obviously, you have a great knowledge of their contracts and contract situation. Were you surprised that they didn't move on from some of the guys that they held on to?
I'd rather talk about the Leafs if you don't. Really
that's
talk about the Canucks.
True. That's true. No, and in fairness, if you don't want to talk about that, that's totally fine. It didn't even occur to me that might be a little time sensitive.
I want you to talk Vancouver. Most definitely. Just go as far as you can go without, crossing any lines.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I think they, in trading Hamonic to Ottawa and getting a third back, I think that was a smart move, because they needed to get, and then flipping it to you guys or to the Leafs for Dermott, that allowed them to get younger, but most of all cheaper, right? Because Dermott hits it at 1.5 and Hamonic was at $3 million. So they freed up some cap space, which is going to help them going forward. Was I surprised they didn't do more? Yeah, a little bit. And Tyler Mott obviously was someone that I expected to fetch a higher return, but that being said, you don't know what goes on in those rooms, and you don't know what's being offered for players. So I'm not going to second guess what they did. And, I'm sure they had discussions to extend Mott, and maybe they just couldn't come to a number that they could agree upon long-term or longer term. And so they decided to get what they could. And if that's what happened, then good on them.
Hey, before I let you go, I just want to ask you just the dynamics of a salary cap through a pandemic, and the stress now on these clubs for every last dollar. It's got to be tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago when things were cruising in the league, and it was forecasted that the cap would go to 88 million and then to 90 million, 95, and now we've been stuck at 81.5 for 3 seasons, and it really is tough, and it's taken away the middle class of players. You get guys that are, the star players get paid their $7, $8, $9 million, and then there's a lot of players that are just trying to hang on for those league minimums or, 900 or $1 million, and it's completely wiped out that middle class. So I think it's really put stress on the system, and it's hard for teams to try to build out their rosters with so much stress. And if there's 1 or 2 inefficient contracts, then you're kind of hooped. Look at Minnesota next year as they get set to have $12 million in dead money from Parise and Gooder. They're going to be in trouble for a long time, and so it's really challenging. Like you said, Nick, it's a tough system right now with the pandemic and the revenue shortfall.
Well, we certainly appreciate your time here, Chris. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, you bet. Anytime, guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate it.
Chris Gear.
Take care.
Sports executive, lawyer, analyst, contributor to Daily Faceoff, and a guy a lot smarter than me. I'm so happy that he kind of clarified the fact that a team like Anaheim would not be able to slide Ryan Kesler through waivers if he's on IR.
But could still trade the contract, right? Can you trade that contract? I don't know.
Well, the Datsuk's contract got traded.
So,
Pronger's contract got. Yeah, you can trade contracts.
So
yeah, I think they still
you
could.
could still
So you could waive him. You could waive Dadonov and trade over Ryan's contract because he's not eligible anyways to play in the playoffs. So
right. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you could trade over Kessler's contract for futures and have Anaheim claim Dadonov. I can't see any team claiming Dadonov at what he makes. And
oh, you know what? No, I don't think so. Well, maybe you can, but teams will be. Here's one thing teams are watching out between Vegas and Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
That the way it basically works is that you make a trade call.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you don't make a trade call. You send the league an email.
Okay.
Both teams want to make a trade. In the email, you stipulate what you want to do on the trade. So you send it to the same place, NHL Central Registry, and then you sign off on it.
Mm-hmm.
Both teams sign off on the emails, and now you're in the queue.
Yeah.
So now you're waiting. So as long as you're in this thing called the queue, which is the system, then you can go and make your trade at 3:02, 3:10, 4 o'clock when they get to you.
Yeah.
But there is a stipulation that trade better be down and no changes.
Mm-hmm.
So if in fact you get in the queue at 4:10 and something's wrong or it doesn't add up, you're not allowed to go back
Yeah.
and change
They're
anything.
like tough beans.
Tough beans.
Yeah.
It's the way it is or it's not happening at all.
Mm-hmm.
So if Vegas and Anaheim want to revisit this,
Mm-hmm.
they're essentially changing the parameters of the deal that was originally, and that is against the rules. Are you following me?
I am, but I wonder if you can then tweak that deal to make it a new deal.
Tweaking is the league's specialty.
Yeah.
No one can tweak
Yeah.
better than Gary Bettman and the NHL office. So that's where it's going to be interesting.
Okay.
But there are teams right now, like in Edmonton, that are watching this carefully and saying, no, you
That's
guys,
the same
you
deal
guys
from
are
the
not.
deadline.
You're not allowed past 3 p.m. Eastern to go change the dynamic of the deal that you originally thought. That's against the rules. Now, does Gary let that go through? Does he wink and say, no, we're going to make an exception here? That's what everybody's watching.
All right. Let's keep our eyes peeled because that is going to make interesting. It's going to affect the way the Pacific plays out. I mean, it's the way they can. What kind of field team can they field? Chris mentioned, like they might not be able to get Alec Martinez back in the lineup, which is huge for a team like Vegas. Right
Stone
now,
was supposed to be out, a.k.a. Kucherov.
Yeah, well, supposed to. And now they're hanging on to a playoff spot.
And now
a cliffhanger
my
back feels
now
better.
we hear he's close. He's close.
Yeah, the tune is changing.
All right, Sam, we got any more contests?
Yeah.
Oh, don't sound so excited. More peanuts?
We're giving away tickets for Sunday night against the Florida Panthers.
Nice.
First matchup of the year.
We're excited.
All you have to do is download Friday, Monday, and Tuesday episodes of Real Kyper and Bourne and listen for different code words that will be placed in the podcast. Then text each code word to 59590, and you'll be entered for a chance to win. Each code word counts as an entry, and the winner will be selected on Wednesday. So it's a big deal. Leafs Panthers, first game they've played all year. Potential first round matchup. Be a good one to go to.
Second round matchup. Even
Sunday night at the rink is weird though, but here we go.
Rock and roll.
I think is Boston caught the Leafs?
Yep.
Yeah, they
Tied.
won an
Let
OT
them.
last night.
You want Florida, Boston, Tampa Bay, or Carolina, Washington?
I got to tell you guys, you know who is not afraid of Toronto? The Florida Panthers. And I'm not saying that as like my opinion, like just a couple of people around that team.
Adjacent.
They do not seem particularly terrified of the Maple Leafs. So I'm with you that they got it. Toronto has a shot, but I don't think Florida feels as. I cannot wait for these two teams to play to get some sense of how they stack up.
Maybe a little Curtis Douglas.
Oh, send Big Dougie into the mix. The new
So
Dougie.
who did the Leafs sign today?
Curtis Douglas. Let's have it.
6'8".
6'9".
6'9",
Punchy.
240. Go ahead to Hockey
He
Fights.
throws with both hands and feet, I hear.
I know he punches downhill at people.
Okay, he is so not Toronto Maple Leaf kind of material.
This guy scored 30 in the OHL a couple times as an overager. He's got 8 in the AHL this year, almost 30 points. PK, wins, draws, 6'9", just signed a contract.
Kyle Dubas have a new Mason Marchment project here.
Everyone I talked to.
Is there any
this guy
Swiss centers they can
mentioned-
trade him for?
Everyone I talked to mentioned Mason Marchment when they talked with this guy. They said it's like maybe found money. Maybe it doesn't work out, but it could be a Marchment type of thing. Sounds like his skating's got way better this year.
He was drafted by Dallas.
Yeah, and then played in Belleville in the Swiss League last
and
year.
Dallas didn't like him.
I don't know. Yeah.
6'9".
So Yeah, I know. That is strange. I'm not sure what happened there.
What's wrong with him?
Yeah, I
Call
don't know.
Dallas up.
It sounds
Say
like
what's wrong with him.
his skating is the biggest thing. Like Randy Milani is the skating coach with the Marlies, and sounds like just like worked and this guy's out there every day after practice and gotten really good at it on his edges. Really effective player. The Leafs said here's $800,000. Maybe we'll see you soon.
Sunday.
Sunday,
Against Florida.
Sunday,
Punch
Sunday.
up at the Scotiabank Arena.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. Mike Kelly is going to be up after the break. NHL Network, Sports Logic. We'll go through some winners and losers with him and see what the paper says on some of these deals.
All right, sounds good.
Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, and Derek Brandeo all back after the break.
is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Coming off the trade deadline, guy that was just as busy as everyone else out there, Mike Kelly, back on the Real Kyper and Bourne show. Hockey analyst specializing in analytics, NHL Network, Sports Logic. How was your trade deadline, Mike Kelly?
It was great, fellas. It was busy. There was kind of a steady flow of trades, I thought. It was good. It wasn't like there were these huge lulls. So it was fun, and now we see how it all works out for all these teams, right?
Did we get a final count of the number of trades or the number of players involved?
I believe it was 33 trades, but not sure the players involved.
Okay. All right. I mean, it always falls into like a 25, 30 kind of range, isn't it? I thought maybe this might be a little lighter, but overall, when you factor in the pandemic and the cap issues, still fairly big number.
Yeah, I think so. I think the year before there was 17, so definitely a spike there. And I don't know what the exact latest is, but maybe there'll be another one with the whole Dadonov Vegas Anaheim mess that's going on.
No kidding. So you watched closely, did a lot of breakdowns. Is there any team that you think made the largest strides over the course of the week leading up to the deadline? I saw you did a video that included Fleury. Maybe it's Minnesota for you.
Yeah, Minnesota's a good one. I like the fact that Minnesota, it's not like goaltending was a glaring weakness for them, but they thought they could be better there. And when you just look at goals saved above expected, trying to isolate goaltending impact, they were around even and around, 22nd, 23rd in the league. Their team defense at even strength is very good. They don't allow a lot off the cycle. They don't allow a lot in front of their net. So they thought, hey, what if we get this guy? They obviously know what Fleury did to them last year, and Minnesota and Vegas won 7 games. So they think they're right there with the top teams in the West. So that was a good ad for them. They get Jacob Middleton, good depth, physical defender, and a little tougher too with Delorier. So Minnie's a good one. Colorado, I love the moves they made. Josh Manson, hard to play against. Lehkonen is a Swiss Army knife. Someone who I think could end up being kind of the sneaky pickup. He's like a Brandon Hagel, good kind of third line role probably on a competitive team. And then the Rangers made some good moves too. Like Andrew Kopp's a heck of a player. I think he'll be great in the playoffs.
I want to go back to Fleury for a second because it just seemed, Mike, that there was apparently only one goalie available during yesterday's trade deadline, and it was Fleury or nobody. And there's some teams that said, even if we got Fleury, we don't know what we're getting. And his numbers aren't great, and he doesn't look that great, and yada, yada, yada. Where do you see Fleury's impact with Minnesota?
Yeah, that's true, and that's a good point, Kyper. He hasn't been at the level he was at last year, and, that's a pretty high bar when you win the Vezina Trophy. So, there's a couple of things. I mean, he goes to Chicago. You don't know that he was obviously planning to go there or if he was going to go, and he decides to go. And the Hawks at the start of the year, they were an absolute mess defensively under Jeremy Colleton. They've been better, with the coaching change, but they're still a leakier team than most. So now you're going to Minnesota, a team, like I said, that doesn't give up a ton of quality. He's not going to face the same type of shots. And he doesn't have to go there and be the guy either, right? Like Minnesota, they've got Cam Talbot, and he's been kind of okay too and up and down. But if one of those guys gets hot, we know what the ceiling is on both of them. So I think that's probably what they're banking on. They're hoping it's Fleury because that ceiling is very high. But at the end of the day, it's not like he's going there to be the starter because all they have is a backup.
Yeah, so here in Toronto, they add Mark Giordano. They bring in Colin Blackwell. Travis Dermott goes out. Didn't get a goaltender. What were your thoughts on the Leafs' deadline acquisitions and how much better these guys should make them?
I like them. I thought, look, we talked about the goaltending before, and I don't think it's a good spot to be in if you're a team and you think you really have a chance to win a Stanley Cup, and the word hope has to be in the equation. Like Florida, they're hoping Aaron Ekblad comes back sometime in the first round, but what's Florida without Aaron Ekblad? Toronto's hoping Jack Campbell is the all-star Jack Campbell, but they don't know. So I've talked about this pretty much all year when we talk about the Leafs and giving up a lot of goals, and it's really more the goaltending than the team defense to me. So, as Kyper said, if the goaltending options weren't there, then what do? You get even better defensively. And Colin Blackwell can help you in a depth role. And Mark Giordano is still a really good play killer. Like, he can kill plays at the blue line. He can kill plays in the defensive zone. He's not some hulking 6'4", monster defenseman, but he uses his size really well. And he can obviously do it offensively too. So with Giordano, you got a guy that even Seattle, a team that gives up a lot of goals, they're not bad defensively other than that. He's not on the ice for a lot of cycle chances again. And he makes a good first pass. He'll help you get out of the zone. So I thought the Giordano move was a great one.
If for me, it depends if Sandin comes back anytime soon. In terms of Sandin and how he's elevated his game in the last, month and a half, back half of the season, it's almost as if you've lost Sandin, and hopefully it's not for the season, then it's almost as if Gio has to come in and kind of, you just wonder if it's a lateral move if you lose Sandin having Giordano back now. I mean, they had to improve, right?
Yeah, I think they get better, though. I mean, I guess the one thing, Kyper and Bourne, you guys can speak to this, is how much of a bump is it getting a captain, a leader, a guy with playoff experience like Giordano, and Sandin's still kind of, growing in the league. So there's that part of it. And I think, it gives you options, too, which is great, right? So where's Giordano going to play? I guess we'll see as things go along. But Riley and Brody have played together and done really well together in the past. Brody and Giordano have played together in Calgary, and that was the partner that he had when he won the Norris Trophy in 2019. So options flexibility is probably what you're asking for as a coach. And if everyone's back, everyone's healthy, they definitely have that on the blue line.
One thing I don't know the answer to that I bet you do is Ben Sharat good? Like, he gets a lot around trade deadline, and he's an available name, and everyone talks about these guys that are available like they're unbelievable. But, I don't know, he seems okay to me. Is he that good?
This is a really interesting debate, right? Because you even get people on the analytics side saying, his analytics are no good. Here's my take on Ben Sharat. So I watched him, living in Montreal, but obviously they went to the Cup final last year. Watched him a lot. And yeah, he's pretty good, effective defenseman for the Canadians. They don't get that far without him, and without that top four. But here's the thing: if you're just going to measure Ben Sharat on whatever you want, analytics-wise, on-ice impact, etc., halfway through that Toronto series, Montreal pretty much went to four defensemen. They didn't play the other two guys very much at all, and Ben Sharat ate huge minutes along with the other three guys in that top four. So if you're going to measure Ben Sharat against other top four defensemen in the league in the playoffs and look at his last year, well, did those other top four guys have to play that much and eat those kind of hard minutes?
True.
It's not apples to apples is all I'm saying. And no, his analytics were not great. Neither was any of the other three guys in the top four for Montreal's defense. But if that's all that matters, how did they get to a Cup final with a team that's not loaded with superstars? So there's some gray there. So I'm not really, 100% on one side of it or the other. And like I said, I've watched him play enough to know that you go into a corner with him, it's not fun. You try to post up in front of the net, it's not fun. And I always say this about defensemen. Think about Jack Johnson. Think about Cody Ceci. Think about Eric Goodbranson. People that, analytics wrote them off years ago. It's not that they're not good enough to play in the league. They were in situations that they shouldn't have been put in or couldn't handle. So look at a guy like Goodbranson now. He's doing great in Calgary because Darryl Sutter says, I know what you are. Don't be anything other than that, and you'll be fine.
Luke Schenn, perfect example. So Ben Sharat in Florida, he doesn't have to carry the mail there. I think he'll be fine. There is a sense, though, when it comes to either the trade deadline or free agency, that there is the emotional element that drives prices up on both sides there. And, the pressure of wanting to win. And, I mean, I don't know. Like, you look at those prices and you're, like, sometimes shaking your head. But there's the emotional aspect of it, and teams and fans get caught up in it. I think we saw that yesterday.
Yeah, there's always some of that, and there's some overpays. I mean, this isn't even about really a contender, but the Hamonic to Ottawa trade, I can't wrap my head around that at all. So, like a third-round pick, and then I think Dermott went a couple hours later for a third-round pick. There's some loopy stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but free agent, it's like anything. You buy a house and there's a bidding war, right? There's prices go up, and you use Giordano as an example. Toronto wants to win a cup. They want to be a contender. They want to make a move. They didn't have to give up a first-round pick. They didn't have to give up a top prospect. So that trades like that, I think, can be pretty successful.
One that I shake my head at is Pat Verbeek in Anaheim moving Lindholm. Now, there was some talk that Lindholm wanted 8 times 8. And at 6'5" for 8 years, I get that you want assets, but you also have to field the team. And those assets, like first rounders and second rounders, they're good, but they're not great when you think about trying to replace a guy like Lindholm, who munches 22, 24 minutes and will for the next 5 or 7 years. And I'm just wondering now, at 6'5", the value that a Lindholm could give you in Anaheim, why didn't you just sign him?
Yeah, I like Hampus Lindholm a lot, and I think the 6'5" deal that he got is pretty much market value. Like, look at the last couple of years, guys in their late 20s who, maybe different kind of defensemen, but the same type of value. Cam Fowler, Justin Falk, Torrey Krug, all signed similar kind of deals. So I didn't think it was an overpay or anything by Boston.
It's a really good price.
Yeah, I guess what I wonder is 2 things. Number one, if let's say Lindholm wanted 8 times 8 and he wasn't going to get it, would he have taken 8 times 6.5 to stay in Anaheim, or would he have wanted to test the market? I don't know the answer to that. And the other thing is, where does Pat Verbeek, I guess, see the team 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Maybe not quite as close to contending right now as some other people think. And I don't think Anaheim's particularly close either. So maybe he figures it'll be a few more years anyways. And now we're talking about a guy in his early 30s.
Wow.
Those are my best guesses.
Still got to sell tickets in Disney World. Right?
Still got to field the team, like you said.
Hey, Mike, really appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this.
All right, guys, anytime. Take care.
Thanks, Mike.
Lindholm is the type of guy that I think he's going to be effective when he's 37 or 38.
You do, eh?
I do.
Just like the way he plays?
Yeah, and there's not a ton of pressure on him to produce.
I like him at that number a lot. Like, if you're Boston, who was it? Was it Chris or Mike mentioned the cap going up? But it was supposed to go up big, big, big. But also now that things seem to be turning around the world, I think it will go up over the course of that Lindholm deal. And it's going to look like a pretty affordable contract.
And it's, again, first rounders, great. But, okay, now go try to replace Lindholm in the next few years. Good luck with that. Defense are so hard to find. Don't have to ask the Leafs that, right?
So I because I agree with you, I disagree with what Mike said about the Hamonic deal not making sense for Ottawa. Like, for me, someone has to play. You need some hockey players on your hockey team, and not just for specifically that this deal is a great one or something, but like for the forwards that you're signing and wanting to be part of your core, like get some NHL players who can at least handle some minutes and make you feel like you're competitive, right? You got to play hockey.
Okay, we mentioned the taxes in California for Dadonov.
Yeah.
If he needs another reason why he doesn't want to go to Anaheim now, they got rid of Lindholm. They got rid of Manson.
Yeah.
They got rid of Raquel.
Yeah, they're not trying to win. What am I doing?
Where do you
not
want to
winning.
go? And here's another thing too. He's got another year on his deal. We mentioned the 6.5 cash, the $5 million cap. He's going to go to Anaheim, and they're going to trade him next summer.
Yeah,
or
at the deadline.
At the deadline,
Right.
They're not going to keep him.
No, that's a great
They're
point.
not going to keep him at
Expiring deal, rebuilding
deal,
team.
Get a second rounder, maybe a conditional first if he's scoring 20 goals,
Yeah.
25 goals. Doesn't want to deal with that crap.
No. I got a text for you, or a tweet from at Kane Stats. Fun fact about the Dadonov trade. Ryan Kesler, who is playing out the last weeks of his contract, moves from California to Nevada, which brings his tax rate from 13.3 to 0%.
How
About
much?
$174,000 in taxes on the line for Ryan Kesler over this Dadonov trade.
He is cheering hard right now
If he
for
gets
the
to
deal
go
to go through.
yeah, you see, he makes 174 grand.
And he hasn't moved off the couch.
No, he's like, what am I? Wait, 100 and what? All right.
He gets to stay on the couch.
That's a big swing.
Yeah. Want to talk a little bit here in the next few minutes about Kyle Dubas and just his demeanor. I'm sure when it was all said and done, a pretty frustrating day, if not week for him.
You think?
Well, we know everybody through Real Kyper and Bourne and anyone else who follow the Leafs, the wants and the needs. And he checked a few boxes off in the depth department.
Yep.
But a lot of people thinking that it's not enough. But the one thing that would frustrate me the most is, I think, the situation he had with Chicago about leaked information.
Right.
That one would have sent me like over the top.
Why would that frustrate you or him?
I think there's just a code that, and there's an unwritten rule that, conversations stay within the walls.
Right, because it affects people's lives when they hear that they were up to be traded or, right? I guess that's
100%. 100%. Do we have a Kyle Dubas on Kyle Davidson yesterday?
We do.
All right, let's do that.
I'm disappointed that conversation is public. I'm not criticizing you. I've never had that before where these specifics like that have been made public. And I think, frankly, it's probably a conversation to ask Kyle Davidson on his availability in Chicago.
I like that he called for a question. Like, you guys ask him about this. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he's got a beef here. And my guess
So you're talking about Fleury. The rumor was the Leafs wanted to get Fleury and Hagel
for 2 firsts and Matthew
they were knocking on doors. They were seeing what was out there. I mean, I still don't believe, even if they came to the parameters of a deal, you'd still have to go to Fleury and convince him to come. I'm not sure if that was ever clear or not, but there was a sense that wasn't even going to get it close. Everybody has conversations on what if, and the what ifs could be a million miles apart. You don't really want those conversations out.
I bet he's pissed about the Nyes thing. Like, he said on our show that he hasn't talked with Nyes and his family. They're in a, competitive hockey tournament right now, right? College tournament. Can't talk to him till after. I bet it reflects poorly, or he thinks it reflects poorly, that they were considering trading the guy. They're going to say, come be a part of our team for playoffs.
I think he also worries about Jack Campbell, hearing that I don't believe in you right now to come back.
That
so
we
I'm
looked
going to
at
go.
another guy.
I'm going to go get a Vezina winner right now, or I'm knocking on the door. I think he thinks that would have bothered Jack a lot.
So he feels that Kyle Davidson, I don't know how old Davidson is. I think he's in his 30s still, a young first-time GM, is maybe playing a little faster and looser than the other GMs have agreed to make these sort of discussions.
Yeah.
With that information.
And the other one, too, was our good buddy yesterday from the star of our show. It wasn't you yesterday, Sammy. It was Harry Carey Sateri.
My boy.
And getting picked up off of waivers. Hey! That one absolutely bothered him a lot.
Yeah. And, okay, so.
Okay. It bothered him a lot. Do we have.
Let's do that one,
yeah,
too.
And this was off our show?
Yep.
Let's revisit this.
I would love to say that it's just something that's in your mind or something like that, Kyper. But I mean, since I've been in this job here, so going back to October 2018, we've had 11 players claimed on waivers, and the next closest team has been 6. So I think there's certainly something to it.
Something to it.
So what is the complaint?
So
is he complaining that they're getting picked on, that the market? What's the complaint?
Think? What do you think he's insinuating?
I think he's insinuating.
I know what he's insinuating.
No.
I know what we are, but say it.
Because he thinks it's Toronto, there's a bigger microscope. People are just doing it to screw the lease.
I don't think that's the insinuation.
That's how I take it. What do you
think the insinuation is that because it's Toronto in the market, you had it that far along, there's more exposure of the names. So people hear the names, see the names, like, Amadio and Brooks. These are not huge names, but because we talk about them and they end up on SportsCenter and on their Sportsnet Central and all these different places, I just think he more people see their waiver moves and think about them. Often it's like, hey, you don't even think about Columbus, Harry Terry, whoever that is.
Yeah, I got a different theory.
Okay.
I think it's a lack of respect on Kyle Dubas. I think they think he's a pushover. And I think that they can get into his grill, and he's a nice guy, but he is a pushover. And I don't think for 1 second Arizona
is worried about backlash.
Would ever... Thank you. I don't think Arizona would ever pull that move on a guy like Lou Lamoriello. Not a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Not a chance that they would pull that on someone of that stature. I think they would be scared to claim a goalie that you just signed and you want in your system or you need in the Marlies because Wall went down, and you would not mess with a guy like that, or even maybe a Brian Burke. I think they look at Kyle Dubas and go, nice kid, I'm going to take advantage of him.
So would the implication then be that those teams don't really want that player, or even if they would want the player, they wouldn't do it for fear of pissing off Burke, Lamoriello? Yeah.
I think the fear, they go at it, those general managers.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like to be shown up, and it's like, I just think it's easier for a team like Arizona to go get a guy that you just signed off of Kyle Dubas than it would be someone else. And I do think it's taking advantage of it. And to a lesser extent, Chicago, right? Would you be scared to death now to leak information out if you were talking to an established general manager of like a hard guy that is...
I don't know. That would be speculating entirely. I mean, I
am speculating.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what we do. It's radio. It's fine.
I'm just saying that I think if you pulled that crap on Brian Burke, he'd go ape on you.
I guess I wonder what avenue, a GM would have to get back at a team, Like, I don't think they would be physically afraid of Lou Lamoriello. I think they would be afraid of some spite or petty revenge.
I think it happens all the time. I think general managers have long memories, and they're going to say, I'll fix you.
I think that Kyle will, too.
I hope he does.
This guy, yeah.
I hope he does.
Right. I think he'd be petty and spiteful.
I think Kyle needs to send a few messages back to the Chicagos and the Arizonas.
And I just don't know how that happens.
Don't mess with my team. Just
I wonder,
leave me alone.
Is this part of that, though? This public dragging it into the fight is like the first step of being like...
If it is, good for Kyle.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think it's probably a combination of all the things we're mentioning.
Right.
Screw the Leafs, more exposure, not afraid of Kyle. It's just like, I don't know, you want him audio? Sure, grab him. Well, what's going to happen? I
don't necessarily buy the Davidson leaking info as like a...
No.
I'd say that's more of a...
No. And I'm not insinuating that. And it's...
a lack of knowledge. He's brand new in the job. He gave the scoop to somebody, the wrong person.
It's just... the feeling that even if it happened, it's not that big of a deal. I think you'd be a lot more nervous against other teams or other organizations or other general managers. I think they just look at it and go, don't worry about it. And in all honesty, the way I know that it works, it wasn't Davidson who leaked the information. It was somebody else in that who's right beside him, who's taking notes. Somebody in that organization went and leaked it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I doubt Davidson's
No.
talking to anyone, but
I
will say I've been a video coach in those rooms. I'm like, I could totally submarine something significant here if I ever wanted to.
We should have a cage match between the Kyles, though. Wouldn't you like to?
So Dubas,
like a Kevin Lowe, Brian Burke of barn fight.
So Dubas used to play staff hockey, and his teams all play staff hockey in the Sioux and the Marlies, and he had to stop playing because he's so angry and afraid of like physically losing his temper and hurting someone. Yeah.
So I take Kyle over Davidson then.
I don't know Davidson enough to speak to that, but I think I told you and I mentioned this show, like, I've seen the man smash picture frames. He's emotional and he's got a temper.
Kyle.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. No,
because between him and Davidson, they look like they should be on like Jeopardy or something,
What's Kyle's game like out there? You seen him play?
Yeah, like net front, grindy. Yeah, definitely a competitive guy. I know. Yeah.
That's funny.
It is funny. Well, that's an interesting theory and part of the conversation. So, other deals at the deadline that we thought were interesting. Max Domi to Carolina caught your attention. That was one of the things.
Yeah, I think Ron Brindamore has got something to work with for sure. So, and he's got some upside here. And we've seen it.
Is he a good kid?
Yeah, he's a great kid.
I've heard, yeah.
He is. He's salt of the earth, and I know that
seems like people like him.
It's always Max compared to Ty.
Right.
Everybody wants to kind of say, and there is an element of Max that he can snap too. We've seen it.
Yeah.
But, Brindamore would be that type of guy to kind of hone that in and channel it and use it to, hopefully in the best way for Carolina to be successful and Max to be successful, where Max is really going to have to make sure he's dotting the I's and crossing the T's is in his own zone. Defensively, being responsible, that is going to be a must for him and Brindamore.
I wonder, I asked that because, I see in my Twitter feed people being like, the bunch of jerks. People in Toronto think Max Domi's a jerk because he played for Montreal and, sassed off at guys on the team and all that. So, they got D'Angelo, this guy that Leafs fans think is not the greatest, dude in the world. Interesting that team has become, to Toronto fans, the bunch of jerks themselves. But I am curious to see if that's enough for Carolina, who watch the conference around them. Florida gets better, Tampa gets better, Toronto gets better, Boston gets better,
D'Angelo
Rangers get better.
D'Angelo back? Because that guy, he's like been free money for them.
Well, what's going to happen next year? It was a 1-year deal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Is someone going to give this guy $6 million a year? He's a point per game defenseman, isn't he? I have to look this up. But
I think he's going to be great for them down the stretch on the power play.
Just as matured and
the power play. I think he's a really good.
Yeah, he's
really
40
good.
points in 44 games. Yeah. 9 goals, sorry. He can
QB that quarterback.
Yeah, he's only 26 years old.
On the
this
power play.
guy right here on his stat line would get paid more than Hampus Lindholm. If everyone thought he was a wonderful salt of the earth guy that we're discussing, he would get paid that.
And
kind
those
of money.
are the bargains. And
they had to plug their nose big time on that signing, though. There was a lot of stuff with him. A lot of
big
stuff.
stones, though.
Yeah, but they took it. I mean, you can call it stones, you can call it whatever you want. They took some big time heat on the signing.
Oh, I don't know about
they
that.
They did.
No, they did on social media, but I think your point is like, okay, so
No, hey, I see your side of it. They got one of the, a great young puck moving defenseman who scores for $1 million.
Yeah.
I remember a few months ago, I don't know, maybe even like, how long is it? 6, 8, no, maybe 2 months ago. We had a conversation on Evander Kane.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. And I remember I brought his name up. Nobody else brought his name up. And I said, this guy's going to play again. And you guys looked at me like I had 3 heads.
I probably did the thing where I didn't say anything because I was like, this makes me uncomfortable.
And watch him now. And it could go south tomorrow. We could hear the story tomorrow.
Yeah.
That it's over. Or he can keep doing what he's doing and putting the puck in the net. All I know is for Sammy, maybe you could have envisioned him with Tavares and Nylander.
Oh, I envisioned it.
For $1.5 million.
I envisioned it.
How would the Leafs have looked different if they got in on it?
Do we remember what the date would have been roughly? I'm looking at his game log, trying to figure out what he's done in Edmonton. He's got
11 goals.
He's got 8 goals this month in just March.
He's a good player.
He had another 4 the month before. So, yeah, that sounds about right.
So whether you're D'Angelo or Kane, you got to weigh out the pros and cons, and you gotta put your what's on the line.
But you don't want to do that. You get burned, it's bad. You take on a bad guy and it messes up your room, and he does something.
You know what? You're better off signing Marazzic for $12 million and then putting him on waivers in March.
I believe they call that false equivalency.
That's better. Doesn't that make you feel so much better?
Yeah, that's the case I was making. That's a better deal.
Oh, yeah.
It is. These are tough. These are tough situations, and the off-ice stuff spills over.
Go ahead.
Can we quickly talk about the Leafs schedule coming up here?
Sure we can.
So they got the Devils tomorrow, Habs Saturday night. But then it goes Florida, Boston, the rematch against Winnipeg after the hootenanny in Winnipeg.
The old hullabaloo.
And then it goes to Flyers, and then it goes at Tampa, at Florida, at Dallas. So 3 teams.
Well, they've played Tampa twice and have at least, is it just maybe
Tampa,
once more in Florida 3 times?
Yep. And they have Boston twice again, too.
Perfect for Jack to come back.
I know.
Good stretch for Jack.
Don't worry, keep Shelgren active. We need to keep him hot.
Back to back, Florida, Tampa, then into Florida. God, they need a goalie. Is it trade deadline? So maybe they should trade for a goalie that's
past that conversation.
Maybe they'll trade for a goalie that's not going to play in the playoffs. Just get him to the end.
Just get Jack healthy again.
The sport is stupid. Goaltenders are hot, they're cold, they're streaky. You don't know what you're going to get. You have a couple of guys who have been good for long stretches of time. You know, Mike Kelly mentioned you don't like being a team who's banking on hope, but I mean, who isn't? Whether it's Bobrovsky and Ekblad or
how many goalies in the league right now where you put your head on the pillow and wake up and still feel great and not worried?
Yeah, I don't know.
Vasilevsky?
Yeah.
Demko?
Shesterkin, yeah.
Shesterkin now. Markstrom?
Yeah.
You're sleeping well with Markstrom?
100%.
Did you see that giveaway there? The other night?
It's a tough sport.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. He's had a hell of a year.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got 4 right now. Are we?
I know.
Have we run out of sure things?
Kemper?
Ain't Swayman, ain't Kemper.
No, not Kemper.
Leonard, if he's healthy, does he make you feel good? Okay.
Billy Husso?
No.
Vinny Vivalainen,
Never
Harry
done it.
Sateri.
Yeah, it's tough.
Jari?
No.
Okay, so we're still at 4.
I know it's.
You know, there is 32 teams in the league.
There's not many guys. It's a weird position, man.
4 out of 32.
Okay, 4 out of 32, but you also don't have the worst goaltending in the league like the Leafs have since January 1st.
Hellebuyck?
Not this year.
No, he was horrible this year. He had an off year.
Yeah, I can't really give you any other names.
Even Gibson.
Yeah, he was one. I'm upset that Gibson never got to a better team than Anaheim during. I hope this isn't decline for him because he was sneaky one of the best players in the league for a number of years, and everyone was like, "Yeah, you're in Anaheim." Stop.
Carter Hart going to get back in there as a top goalie conversation.
Derek's yelling at me to say this.
Okay.
Freddie.
Ooh, Freddie Anderson. Leafs fans would just simply say no. They're not sleeping easy with Freddie.
If you're Rob Brindamore,
short side.
If you're Rob Brindamore putting your head in the pillow thinking about your goaltending, you don't the highlight reel of goals and
no, because you always have in the back of your mind that it hasn't worked in the biggest moments.
Mikheyev, short side.
He might have been passing that puck.
I don't know how that. I watched that one back a few times. I have no idea why
Freddie
that
might have read that play right. It was just a bad Mikheyev play.
There are times when I cannot get it any slower, and I still don't know how the hell that went in.
I know.
I mean, Freddie's making a hard push across on that one. I don't know. So, quick little gambly thought for tonight. How far?
How many games? 11 tonight? It's busy tonight, isn't it?
Tons of hockey.
How the hell did the Leafs not play?
I know. Yeah, they played, I think, twice in 8 days here, and it's a bizarre little stretch. I got to tell you, the Vegas Golden Knights, you can get them plus 143 against a non-playoff team tonight in the Winnipeg Jets. Does that not tickle your fancy? Like, did they still not have enough guys that Vegas shouldn't be a massive underdog? Plus 143. So that's my money's on Vegas tonight. I'm going to take them to really pull the rug out from under the Canucks.
Just under 5 p.m. Eastern, and no word from the league yet, on Dadonov.
I don't know. They don't know.
They
either.
need to say something here. The Vegas and Winnipeg tonight. What time?
Yeah, it's
right? 8 p.m. Eastern?
Yeah, 8 p.m. You got it.
Come on. Like, you got to make a decision before that puck drop. Do you not?
Coming down to the wire here.
All right, our thanks today. Mike Kelly, Chris Gear, Sammy, JB, Derek, always a pleasure. What do we got tomorrow? Game day, finally?
Tomorrow, I believe we're going to be joined by Florida Panther Ben Sharat, new Florida Panther.
Oh, you can tell them that your numbers are no good.
I asked him if the numbers are good, and he said he's a very good player.
All right, thanks for watching. Hey, give us a rating and review. Download our podcast and let us know. We'll see you tomorrow.